XRP might just be on the verge of something massive.
Yeah, you heard that right. Maybe it's finally time to give XRP a second look. Check out this headline from CoinDesk. XRP set for historic surge, mirroring bullish Bitcoin trend ahead of potential $100K breakout. Now that is crazy coming from CoinDesk, of all places. For nearly 10 years, they've been pumping out anti-XRP content like it's their job. Tons of negativity and plenty of misinformation I've had to fact check right here on this channel. But now suddenly they're bullish on XRP. That's interesting. Could it be that CoinDesk is finally tired of being on the wrong side of history when it comes to XRP? Maybe they're starting to see the light. Let's be real. These guys have been bashing XRP for the better part of a decade, non-stop hit pieces and garbage takes, and honestly, that hasn't totally stopped. Just to clarify, it's not like they've suddenly turned into XRP cheerleaders overnight. Their case of what I like to call XRP derangement syndrome is still hanging on for dear life. But hey, at least we're seeing a little bit of movement in the right direction. That counts for something, right? In Cointelegraph, same old pattern. Still, check this out. They dropped this headline. 3 indicators XRP may be on the verge of a major breakout after months of sideways action. Oh really? You don't say. Kind of funny how the analysts who've been right all along have been calling this for ages. Now, that brings up a bigger question. Are we actually going to see an alt season? My take. Absolutely. And I'll break down exactly why I'm so confident in that. But just so we're clear up front, I don't have any sort of formal background in finance and nothing I say is financial advice. And just to be absolutely clear, don't go buying or selling anything just because of what I say here. I'm not a financial advisor, and I don't pretend to be one. I'm just a regular crypto fan who enjoys chatting about this stuff on YouTube as a hobby. It's all for fun, folks. As I'm recording this, it's 2:14 p.m. Central Time on Saturday, June 28th, 2025. XRP is showing some nice green, hovering just under $2.19, not bad at all. And Bitcoin, it's holding strong at 10. Things are quiet for now, but I gotta say, it feels like we're in that eerie stillness right before something big hits. Big things are brewing. And when it comes to this CoinDesk article, I won't get too deep into the weeds, but I do want to highlight a few parts, because honestly, it's just too interesting not to. Watching this shift from CoinDesk after years of watching them pump out hit pieces on XRP is just, it's kind of mesmerizing. This particular piece was written by Nkar Godbol, a chartered market technician who contributes to CoinDesk. And listen to this. He uses a ship in a storm analogy that really paints a picture. Imagine a vessel tossed around by massive waves, yet still afloat. That resilience, he says, signals that smoother waters may lie ahead. Similarly, when an asset refuses to drop even while indicators are screaming bearish, it suggests real strength underneath, possibly even signaling a breakout on the horizon. He's saying that's where XRP is now. And it's similar to what happened with Bitcoin before it skyrocketed from 70K to over 100K last year. That's some rare optimism from CoinDesk. And get this, they even made a point to distinguish Ripple from XRP. I think hell just got a little frost. Now sure, they didn't have to bring up Ripple at all, so maybe the underworld hasn't fully frozen over, but still it's something. For years they've lumped Ripple and XRP together like they're the same thing. It's wild to finally see them get it right. Anyway, I'm not going to read the whole article here. It goes pretty deep into technical analysis. But if you're really into that kind of stuff, the kind of nitty-gritty TA that only hardcore chart watchers love, feel free to pause the video as I scroll through it, or just check it out directly on their site. What's especially interesting is how the article draws a comparison to Bitcoin's behavior last year. Back then, the weekly MACD indicator kept flashing red for months, even while Bitcoin mostly traded sideways with a few dips on. CoinDesk pointed that out in mid-September when BTC was around 59 DTA, and just weeks later it took off, breaking 70 DK, and ultimately reaching all-time highs beyond 100K by November. Now they're saying XRP might be setting up for something similar. And honestly, that should be no surprise. I've been sharing insights from analysts I trust, people with a decent track record, and the consensus has been clear for a while now. Ever since XRP hit its all-time high, it's been consolidating. It's stuck in a range, which is completely normal. In fact, volatility has been tightening all year, and we're approaching that breakout point. The real question is up or down. The analysts I follow, the ones who actually seem to know what they're doing, say up. And right now, it's hard to find a legit analyst who's still saying this chart looks bearish. The honest ones, the ones analyzing in good faith, are all seeing the same signals. It's right there in front of us. So Cointelegraph is out here pointing to Ripple's acquisitions and updates to the XRP ledger as reasons why XRP might pop off. I mean, cool, those are good developments, no doubt. If you want to pad out your article with that stuff. Yeah. But let's be real, XRP's explosive potential doesn't hinge on what Ripple is buying. Ripple's news, even the huge headlines that directly involve XRP, have historically had almost zero impact on the price. The market barely flinches. It just does what it does in sync with the rest of the crypto space. Same thing with the XRP ledger upgrades. Yes, there are improvements, and yes, they're great for the ecosystem. But is anyone seriously going to look back and say, whew, thank goodness for that ledger update, otherwise XRP never would have taken off? Please. That's just silly. But what is interesting is that Cointelegraph is finally starting to echo what so many technical analysts have been saying for a while now, analysts I've been showcasing right here on the channel. Check out this key takeaway. Their Elliott wave analysis and a bullish pennant pattern are pointing to a potential XRP breakout somewhere between $5 and $14. Now look, if we only see $5, yeah, I'll be honest, that would be pretty underwhelming. Disappointing. I'm not the kind of guy to throw out price predictions. I'm just a crypto enthusiast with a YouTube channel, but that seems low to me. Think about it. $5 isn't even a 2x from XRP's previous all-time high of $3, and that was way back in the bull cycle of 2. We've waited almost a decade since then, and now XRP is sitting on rock-solid fundamentals. Institutions are lining up and interest is surging. In fact, there are now 11 firms pushing for an XRP spot ETF. That's more than any other crypto asset right now. Solana had 7 firms just a bit ago, maybe 9 now, but XRP is still leading the pack. That kind of demand speaks volumes. So if we're talking potential double-digit prices for XRP, now that's starting to sound more aligned with reality. And hey, maybe the analysts calling for $20 to $30 are going to end up being right. Time will tell. What I do know is this. Alt season, oh yeah, it's on the way. Check this out. Julian Biddle, who heads up macro research at Global Macro Investors and works closely with Raoul Pal, dropped a really interesting post just a few hours back. As of 9:44 a.m. today, he shared a chart tracking the percentage of crypto assets that have outperformed Bitcoin over a rolling 90-day window. And he kept it simple, alt season loading. Now the chart goes back to 2019, so we're missing the 2017-2018 action, but it still tells a clear story. The last true alt season, that was back in 2021. It's been years since we've seen anything close to that kind of surge. Looking at the chart, you can see the swings between extremes, and right now, we're near a historical low. Only about 8% of assets are outperforming Bitcoin at this point. And every time we reach this kind of level, what tends to follow is a major upside shift. Now, of course, no single metric is the magic crystal ball, but this is one more piece of the puzzle. It lines up with other indicators, and the confluence is hard to ignore. So when we hit these kinds of low points on this specific indicator, it's typically a sign of serious momentum building. That kind of setup often leads the way into a real altcoin rally. It's not everything, but it's definitely something, and it looks like alt season might just be getting ready to kick off. Now, I came across a post from a well-known analyst, TXMC, where he shared a take that's been floating around since January. He suggested that we might not get an alt season this cycle. His reasoning being that so much capital has flowed into Bitcoin ETFs that there just won't be enough left over to fuel the usual rotation into altcoins. Now look, I'm always open to hearing different viewpoints, especially ones that go against the grain. And I think his perspective qualifies as that. But I've got to say, I've never really found that argument to hold much water. This topic actually came up thanks to Michelle Nightingale, a familiar face in the XRP community. She tagged the blockchain backer on X, asking his thoughts on TXMC's claim. The gist of it was, if institutional investors and corporate treasuries are driving Bitcoin demand through ETFs, and they're not likely to flip those profits into alts, does that mean alts will lag this time around? Now, I didn't see a reply from blockchain backer. Maybe he responded and I missed it, but either way, I jumped in with my own take, and here it is. I just don't buy into that narrative. Think about all the people who bought Bitcoin directly on exchanges, not via an ETF. You think that money won't rotate into altcoins at some point? Of course it will. That's always been part of the cycle. Plus, most of the capital flowing into Bitcoin ETFs is from traditional finance, the kind of money that likely wouldn't have touched crypto at all if not for these regulated investment vehicles. The ETFs are an on-ramp, not a replacement for actual crypto investing. Need proof that retail is still alive and well in crypto. Just look at what happened after the last election. The Coinbase app skyrocketed to one of the most downloaded apps worldwide. That doesn't happen if people are ignoring exchanges. If someone's saying there won't be an alt season, they're basically implying that people have stopped buying altcoins on exchanges entirely. And come on, that's just not what's happening. Look at the on-chain data. Look at exchange inflows and outflows. Look at Coinbase's earnings reports. They're making serious money, and not just from Bitcoin trading. Just because ETFs exist now doesn't mean demand for spot crypto on exchanges has dried up. That's not how this works. It's just a new lane added to the highway, not a road closure. So yeah, I'm calling that argument what it is, a weak take. No shade toward TXMC. I think he's a sharp guy, but on this one I strongly disagree. I think once this cycle plays out, it'll be pretty clear that the idea of no alt season just doesn't hold up. And one more thing, people forget how illiquid a lot of these altcoins are. It doesn't take a massive influx of capital to light a fire under them. A little push can lead to massive price spikes, and once that happens, FOMO kicks in hard. That's when you start seeing those parabolic green candles all over the place. I also want to bring your attention to something that popped up in the Daily Hodl. This one's titled, Analyst Says $170,000 Bitcoin is Closer Than You Think, and the analyst they're quoting here, none other than Tech Dev. One of the most respected chart guys in the game. The man is over 30,000 followers for a reason. So here's what's interesting. Tech Dev's outlook suggests that after a correction down into the $90,000 range, Bitcoin could surge more than 60% from where it's currently sitting. He specifically says $95,000 would make structural sense. $170,000 is closer than you think. That's the quote. And honestly, that kind of move isn't far-fetched. If Bitcoin does hit 170K, and I'm not saying it's guaranteed, but if it does, you better believe profits are going to start flowing out of Bitcoin and into altcoins, XRP included. That kind of rally would be huge for the broader market. The article goes on to break down the indicators behind Tech Dev's bullish case. He points out that Bitcoin's major bull runs 2013, 2017, and 2021 have all aligned with key turns in the macroeconomic cycle. He believes we're nearing the bottom of that cycle again. His advice: reevaluate your top calls. That's not nothing. It's another strong piece of confluence that lines up with what a lot of us have been seeing. The macro environment's shifting, and that historically means a surge in risk on assets. Tech Dev also brings up the copper to gold ratio, a metric that's often used to gauge investor appetite for risk. It just hit a bottom that looks very similar to 2016 and 2020, both of which came right before massive Bitcoin runs. He says the steep part lies ahead, and when you look at the chart, it's hard to argue with that logic. You'll also hear him reference the M2 money supply, a major global liquidity metric. Year over year, it's flipped from negative to positive growth. And I've been banging the drum on this one for a while now. When liquidity starts rising, capital looks for a home. And historically, that home tends to be risk assets like stocks and, yes, crypto, including XRP. So all this data coming together, the economic signals, the liquidity surge, the technicals, all of it points to one thing. This market could absolutely explode. Alt season is very much on the table, which brings us full circle right back to that wild headline from CoinDesk of all places, XRP primed for record rally. And honestly, that sounds just about right. Not financial advice, I'm not a financial advisor, just a crypto enthusiast sharing my thoughts with you, as always.